Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to Voice of Uganda Radio. For some of you, it's morning. If it's afternoon or evening, hello, and welcome to the Sunday morning program of Freedom at Hand. I am your host, Miss Brenda, for the next 2 hours, so thank you so much for coming on board and being a part of the program. I will have Anna Deck, the president-elect guild there at McCary University, will be joining us in the second hour this morning. And so will Dorothy. So I'm going to carry us through the first hour, and I hope that you enjoy the program and what I've put together today as a part of the discussion. I want to, before I get started, thank you all again for your commitment to FADU, FADDU.org, and the memberships out there that continue to grow. Thank you so much for being a part of that. Remember, if you haven't become a member, all you have to do is go out there to fadu.org and click on the membership, and you can sign up there. Once you sign up and do all your information, it will send you a confirmation email. You have not registered to become a member until you get that confirmation email. Once you get that confirmation email, you can click on that, and it'll open up and say, congratulations, you're a member of FADU. So I do encourage you to continue to go out there and become members. FADU is going to work for all of us in a great way as we continue to grow here at Voice of Uganda Radio. And I think it'll be a platform that will speak very, very loudly here in the United States for some of the things that we want to get going here. Not only at Voice of Uganda Radio, but just to help and be of support for those who are in Uganda still at this time. So thank you so much for your membership. Thank you so much for being a part of that. Thank you so much for joining us from week to week to be a part of the programs. Whether you're one of our members that love to call in and be a part of the conversation or just enjoy being a part of our listening audience, we thank you so much for your participation and for being a part of Voice of Uganda Radio. And I think we have been officially on the air, 6 months now, and our numbers have just grown tremendously, and they continue to grow, not just to my American audience here, but globally throughout the world. You have shown us all the different areas where Ugandans exist, and I think you guys are probably covering the global map as far as places where Ugandans are calling home. Outside of their birth country, which is Uganda. So thank you so much, and we really do appreciate you all very, very much. If you're just tuning in, I am your host, Miss Brenda, for the next 2 hours for Freedom at Hand. So thank you so much for being a part and participating in the program this morning. When we stand up for what we believe, we can start a revolution. And that is ordinary people, not people of any other standards, but just being ordinary individuals who have a purpose and a cause. When we start to stand up for what we believe, we can start a revolution. And revolutionary acts of courage by ordinary people go through history to show some of the most incredible movements to move a country or a nation or a group of people forward. Just by standing in the act of courage to revolutionize what you believe, what you think, how you feel about your country, the direction that it's going, your government, your organizations. There has been many of people throughout history, and we can go back as far as history dates itself, and you will find that there were people who were just ordinary people that stood up and caused a revolution because of something that they believed in. We often think, when we think of heroes, we think of them as these superhuman people. We think of them as doing something that we ourselves could never accomplish because we're just ordinary people. But the people that we put that title on as superhuman, they were ordinary people just like us. Just like those of us in the diaspora, those of us no matter where we are on the global map, and those that are in Uganda, they were just ordinary people. And we should remember these people. We should remember that they were ordinary human beings who made a choice. And whatever that choice may be for whatever they wanted to liberate or bring about change in their lives at that time, we have to remember that they were just human beings who made a choice. And just like them, the rest of us have the opportunity to choose to engage in creating a better world as well. A lot of times we read the news, the media, we see what's going on. We know what's going on in Uganda. We know what's taking place. We know people coming in and out of power, making decisions to do things. But just like these ordinary people that we consider to be superhuman, we all have the opportunity to choose to engage in creating a better world for ourselves. We talked about it here on Freedom at Hand quite a bit. Some of those people that made those choices were Harriet Tubman with the Underground Railroad to Freedom, Gandhi with his Salt March, Rosa Parks with her refusal to get up on the bus, Dr. King with his dream for the United States and African Americans that live within America, Nelson Mandela for his dedication to justice and what he believed could happen for the people there in South Africa, and even down to Abraham Lincoln here in the United States of America, who was revolutionary in the freedom of slavery. All these people were just like you and I. They were just like you and I. They were ordinary people who, for some reason, had faith in what they believed in and what they wanted to see happen. They had hope for a better tomorrow, for a better life, for a better existence for everybody. And they loved. They had love. They had love for the cause of whatever it was they were standing up for. You know, because their love for what they believed made other people around them believe as well. Harriet Tubman, if she didn't love freedom and want that for other people, she would have never gone back to help others. Gandhi, if he didn't see the right and the justice in how the Indian people were being treated, he loved his people. He loved his countrymen. That's why he did the things that he did. Rosa Parks, the same thing. You know, a love for country, a love for self. And a love for self is one of the biggest loves there can be, because that love for self teaches us to have courage to stand up at times where we might not normally stand up. Dr. King, in his I Have a Dream speech, and all the ways in which he wanted to see African Americans liberated in the United States of America, that has to come from a place of love. That's not just something you wake up one morning and say that I'm going to do, because one of the things that all of these people faced were huge obstacles. They could have lost their lives at any time, especially Nelson Mandela. But, you know, we know that when he went to court, he said that it was a cause that he was willing to die for. That is love. When you're willing to stand for people in such a way that you're willing to lose your own life, that speaks volumes of the love and commitment that you have in what it is you're doing and the cause that you're bringing forward. Abraham Lincoln, you know, not so fortunate, nor was Gandhi, but Abraham Lincoln, you know, he lost his life after fighting the civil wars here in the United States of America that freed slavery and made it non-existent. But he had to have a love for it. He had to have a love for the people. He had to have a love for justice and what was right and what was wrong. So faith, hope, and love, which we all talk about all the time, is a huge driving force in helping people to really commit to and move a nation or a country of people forward, to say that what is happening is unjust, it's not right, and that we all need to stand up and be a part of the change. I talked on Wednesday at Freedom at Hand, at the American Connection, about Dr. King used in one of his speeches, you know, about the arc of the moral universe, and that arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And that is what we're all seeking, is justice. Even here on Voice of Uganda Radio, every program you listen to, what everyone has to say, whatever is going on, it's all about justice. Justification, justifying, or justice. Barack Obama, the president here in the United States of America, went on a little farther to say that it does not bend, that arc of the moral universe, it does not bend on its own. It bends because each of us, in our own way, put our hand on that arc, and we bend it in the direction of justice. And that's what I'm talking about today at Freedom at Hand for the Ugandan people, who I believe now are starting to realize that their freedom is at hand. I don't think anybody has to tell them anymore. I don't think anybody has to remind them. I think they know what's going on, and I think they're very, very aware of their circumstances, their situations, and what is being done on the outside world for them. But let's just talk about this when we talk about what the Ugandan people know for sure. When we talk about what Barack Obama said, that arc is something that we all have to put our hands on and bend it in the direction of justice. I think that's what we do every day here at Voice of Uganda Radio. I think it's really what we do on the weekend with the platform of the different programs and the shows that come on. I think it's what the Ugandan people are starting to see for themselves, and those who get involved in speaking out on behalf of the Ugandan people every day. And I say every day because literally newspapers, whether they're in the UK, those that are still in Uganda, those that are outside of the country, everywhere, people are starting to print the information, telling the people what they need to know, making the Ugandan people more and more aware of where they are and where they stand. I see Anna's coming on with me, so let me say good morning to her and bring her on, and then we'll just go into some of the things that the Ugandan people know for sure. Good morning, Anna. Are you there?
Yes, Brenda, I'm here. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, very well.
Well, good. I was going to start talking a little bit this morning about some of the things that the Ugandan people know for sure on their own revolutionary march to freedom here. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit because I know a lot of things have been going on there in Uganda. And I know we haven't had a chance to talk to you for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the first part of this morning here to go ahead and share some of the things that are happening right now there in Uganda and what's going on.
Oh, well, it's good here in Uganda. I could say pretty much the same. And we're still in the same struggling conditions, trying to forge our way forward on how our struggle can achieve what it really, really wants to achieve. Well, lately it's been about the shake that my party has been having. Especially in light with the crossovers that we've had by very, very respectable party members to join the NRM. And I must say, it's causing a rift to be created in the strongest opposition party there is in the country. And I could say that it's pretty much perpetrated by the members in the ruling party, but it has shaken us because people are losing confidence in really what these leaders stand for. Because when you see senior party leaders who have been in struggle for decades, crossing over to join someone they have fought for 30 years, then you question really what they are up to. But away from that, it's been a very interesting series of events. We were blessed to have the eclipse, and funny enough, once again, the NRM seemed to own the eclipse because the president made himself the chief viewer of the eclipse, and when he went to Pakwach, he was telling all these grassroots people that NRM bought the eclipse, and funny enough, they seem to believe it. But from what I learned from it is that it's showing how ignorant people are, how much they have no access to the truth. They can't even interpret and understand natural occurrences because, well, now that is going down as one of the achievements of the NRM. But we're talking about people who are not educated. There is no way they can access this information. Probably the kind of lives that they've known for the entire maybe 30 years have been digging, staying around the same area. They don't even move out of Pakwach. But well, that's what it's been like. I know we've not spoken for a very, very long time. I haven't been on the show, and there is plenty I could talk about, including the yellowing of the Independence Day celebrations, because Independence Day celebrations were turned into an NRM Day celebration. It seemed like 26th January. It was the groups that were marching, yellow shirts. They were saying NRM, or I got myself thinking, it's Independence Day. It's a nationwide celebration. It's not for only one party, and it's very unfair to monopolize it in such a way. But I think the most interesting thing was the speech of the president, and I liked it because when we keep saying that Museveni may be a very good liar, but sometimes he tells the truth, and it's people that do not want to hear the truth. Because the president told the world, he told the nation, that the money to pay teachers is actually there, but he's going to use it to build roads, and the teacher's salary can wait until the roads are built. But then roads have been built, they've been in a process of being built for the last 30 years. So maybe for the next 30, they'll still be built and the teachers will stay in their pitiful situations. And as a university student, he said a very important thing about the education system and pretty much confirmed what I keep saying about the lack of practicality and the education system does not even trust itself. He said that universities should stop teaching arts courses like development studies and concentrate on teaching courses that are science-based. And it seems a very good thing for me because, the world is going very scientific and technology seems to be the number one thing. But if you cannot empower me from the beginning, how do you expect me to just say I want to do sciences when you cannot even provide chemicals for a laboratory while I'm in secondary school? So he seemed to just confirm what we have been talking about on the show this whole time. And I hoped that it was an eye-opener for so many Ugandans, because then it kind of rested the teachers. They knew that the moment they gave up on their demand, they had lost it. And when the president said that, even the deadline of Wednesday, which they had given, the next week, had to be done away with because the president was very clear. But really, what does this tell us? If people continue to believe in a cause and then give up on the way, they're making us go back to zero, and they're stretching this entire process. It's not supposed to last this long and be this tedious, because if we all combine efforts and we know what we want, then I believe very much that we can achieve what we want to achieve. So, Brenda, that and so many things have been happening in the country.
Yeah, because, it's interesting listening to you talk about not just the education part of this, but about what he said to the teachers. I tell you, Uganda is looking at some problems this year for their budget because a lot of countries are pulling out and not giving them the funding that they're used to getting, simply for that reason that monies has been given to them time and time again for infrastructure, of which is not being done. And I think this is just kind of his way, like you're saying again, of pacifying the situation to kind of make everybody think that he's going to do what he needs to do this time and move forward. But I think he's going to have to get loans this year to do what he needs to do because so many people are pulling out. And as far as the teachers, here in America, we had that conversation when they stepped down and decided to go back to their classrooms. They had so much power at that moment in time. They had taken the power away from the president. They had taken the power away from their union. They had taken the power away from the police force to do anything about it. And when they stepped down and they gave that power back, you start to realize people who stood for freedom and people who did, the revolutionary move to bring about change, it comes because you stand strong and you stand firm in what you believe. If you continue to step down from that, you give the power back to the person and you make him even stronger than he was before you ever stood up against him.
Yes, that is it. And the kind of example that they live for so many of these other people that would follow their lead is very bad, because now people know that, when they will simply make a demand because they expect the president to offer them a penny instead of a handful of what they deserve, and then they will be fine enough, they will go away with that. And honestly, other people that have lived in this situation for 30 years, I think that we need to start having great expectations. If we live our lives expecting and understanding that if I am able to get food, that's all I deserve, then I think we are living in vain. And that seems to be the situation here.
Yeah, and that's very sad when you think about that. I have to share a story with you because you were talking about him and the comments that he's made on education, how everyone should be in science or some of those things, and you should do away with arts. The world was not formed for everybody to do the same thing. We need individuals doing different things because that's what makes the world go round. If everybody was a doctor, then who would take out the garbage, and who would be the teachers, and who would teach our children music, and who would be the math teachers? I mean, we need that well-roundedness. There was a young girl here in the United States of America that her teacher called her parents in for a conference and said, this child can't sit still. She must have a problem. We can't get her to sit still. Every time we turn around, she's up out of her seat and she's doing things. And so they were ready to label this child as having a learning disability and just kind of cast her off to the side. So the principal said, sit here. I'm going to talk to your mom and dad for a little while. Well, when they left the room, they put on the music and they left. And when they came back in the room, the mother said, oh, that's her problem. She's a dancer. So what they did for this child is they put her in dance classes and motivated that side of her. She became a scholar when she graduated from the university later in life, and she became a dancer who later opened her own studio, who developed other children who had similar problems as she did. So the one thing that bothers me so much with this president is that he wants to put everybody in a box, and that's what he wants them to do. He doesn't even understand the vastness of why we have all of the different curriculums and the things that you can study at a university level for that particular reason. I mean, wouldn't you say so?
Yes, that is it. But maybe let's go back and ask ourselves if even the president himself understands these things. I mean, one, he doesn't even appreciate higher education in Uganda because he did not study here. He studied in Dar es Salaam, so he doesn't even have the goodwill to have his own universities develop and impart education. But then to go back on how he benefits very much in making people have a specific way of understanding. I mean, if you're telling me that the reason I'm unemployed is because I did not do medicine or something, you're not answering my question. If as a young
person, may have lost Anna there for a second. Because you know that she's coming directly from us to us from Uganda, so we're going to try to get her back there. Anna, oh, okay, you're back. Yeah, go ahead, Anna. Go ahead.
Yes. I was saying that let's go back to how the education system itself is structured. It's definitely engineered to produce something which is supposed to help the government retain power. I don't know if you understand me. I mean, if your education system is intentionally pushing out so many graduates, and they know the number of people that access education and the number of jobs they create, it's because they want to have so many young people frustrated to an extent that when they come with a sham thing that looks like a youth fund, young people are already so ready. I mean, it feels like a crumb that has been thrown at you after starving for ages, and you have nothing to do. You pick it up and you never really use it. Giving money to people in their hands can never develop. But that is what the president thinks. So when I listened to him there, I thought to myself, the president knows that more than 50% of the secondary schools in this country do not have chemicals to teach these practical subjects. And Brenda, I will tell you, these Ugandans are very innovative people, and they have a love for science. You know, you'll find a child at home who will get wire and make something that looks like a car from wire and put little circular rubber things to look like tires, and he will move it around. You see how innovative this child is.
Yeah.
It will show you that he has something in him. But what do you do with something that does not have the environment to express itself? Well, you'll just sit on it because your talent is not going to be protected or nurtured, nourished.
You're right, because you have to cultivate that in the young children. In some sort of way so that they can continue forward, because we understand and we know that under the current political leadership there in Uganda, unemployment is destroying the youth.
Yes, and they know it because, you know, Brenda, with a population like ours of young people, 78 or 80%, they say in the next 5 years we shall be 90% of the country's population. Wow. If you have a big amount of the population frustrated, they are jobless, they are walking up and down and they have nothing to do, it gets very easy for you to control them because they're not independent. So when it comes to say something, they try to hatch up like a patriotism something, they will say, let's give this to the young people, and then people will say, oh yes, we've been doing nothing, let's embrace it. So you have a young person who is as empty as a tin. One, he has not been able to get what he should get from the education system. They have robbed him of his identity because even the history of his country is not known to him. And just to mention something about this, I've been attending some patriotism trainings that have been going around, and I took an interest because for me, I wanted to understand what kind of patriotism they teach us. And when I attended, what they began with was a video recording about the atrocities that President Idi Amin committed. Yes, it was terrible, Brenda, making people eat slippers and all that kind of stuff. It was perfect. So they told us people like President Idi Amin are not patriots. And then they bring the NRA and they say, well, the NRA has brought constitutionalism and the rule of law. The NRA has brought education for all through the UPE system. The NRA has brought all these. Now that is what we call being a patriot. And in my brain, I didn't seem to condense this. And I got a platform and I spoke to the Kano Masiko, who commands the Patriotism Club. And I told him, you know, Kano, in this room, you're talking to young people. And you know that the kind of things they've been exposed to since the day they were born in this country. And you know that you're able to tell them lies about their history because they don't know their history. So it's like a blank page on which you can write anything. So instead of telling them the truth, you will tell them a lie because you know that this lie is going to be the only thing they know. So it's going to be gospel truth to them. So you will come and tell them that the NRA is the best thing that ever happened to them. You will not tell them about the 26-year-old war that has persisted in northern Uganda. You will not tell them about the Luara Triangle War and all the reports that have been hidden about how NRA soldiers would put on UPC shirts and actually go and kill and look like UPC members, and yet it was the NRA. How it was the UPDF actually tying up people's breasts until they burst in northern Uganda, cutting people's lips and saying it was Joseph Kony and the LRA rebels. You will not tell people that just before Kony was about to sign a peace agreement to end the 26-year-old war in northern Uganda, Museveni made sure that he violated the pre-terms that they had agreed to, and Kony had to retreat back to Sudan and come back with more artillery. You won't tell people that when David Sejusa appeared in Parliament, he told the country that the reason why the war still subsisted was because the president wanted it to continue. So I told him, Kano Masiko, for me I know the truth, but you're only lucky in as much as these young people don't know the truth. So Brenda, those are the kind of young people we have. They don't know the truth about their country. They don't know. They've not appreciated the power they hold in their hands, the power they yield. So when they become frustrated, they don't have an outlet. They cannot even be innovative enough to link all these frustrations that we are going through, be it the failure to have our student loan scheme operative for the last 10 years, be it the unemployment that we are having, be it the fact that we are not having security, and that the citizens of the country are taking a back place foreigners are being favored. You know, Brenda, I have to tell you about something gruesome that happened a few months ago. There was a young lady who was about 22. She got raped by some Pakistani investors, and they owned a bus. She was a worker there. She used to clean, and she got raped by them. But it was anal rape, so her muscles were ruptured and all that. And unfortunately, she got pregnant. Now, when I went to see her in hospital, it was a very bad situation because she was pregnant and yet her anal muscles were terribly damaged. So the doctors could not give her the kind of painkillers that we wanted to give her because they were scared it would terminate the pregnancy. So she was in pain. Now, when FIDA Uganda and all the women activists took this to the police, somehow the file disappeared. You can imagine, Brenda, the file disappeared. It is until we used the media and we went so viral and we said it is very unacceptable for a young Ugandan woman to be treated like that, and no one can speak for her. And even the people supposed to protect her, who are the police, are just quiet about it and hiding the file, and justice will not happen. So I just see a place where citizens are not citizens. We have been reduced to less than citizens, and unfortunately, because it's a situation that has gone on for about 30 years, we seem to have settled for it.
Yeah, because let me ask you this: what made you go to visit this individual after this incident had happened? Was it a group that went in to talk to her to find out what happened, or was it just, you know, out of compassion that you went to see her? I mean, are there groups set up that go to mentor to these people that these things are happening to, or how does that take place?
Well, I got to know the information from a friend of mine who works with FIDA Uganda, and they kept. I just inquired into it because they said that there was a girl who had been raped, and she was in a terrible condition. So I just thought, as a female and a woman activist, as you know, as someone who knows exactly what is happening, I should go and see her. That is when I found out the whole story. But you see, Brenda, this girl was working like this because, one, she wouldn't be doing such work. She wouldn't be doing such work if she was actually employed in a decent place. And right. I'm not saying this, just because, but I'm trying to show the world what unemployment can do, because it wasn't done on one occasion. She was raped, and it happened for about a month. So she just kept there because she knew she needed the money. So you see, this is what unemployment can do to young women.
Well, not only unemployment. The reason I asked why you visited her, because number one, we have to sympathize with what's going on in Uganda. And that means a lot to me, because you cannot just leave an individual out there like that and not show her the sympathy of the community coming together for her. The other thing too is, when you were talking about foreigners, the country has sold the citizens of Uganda to the foreigners that live there in Uganda, because they have more rights than the Ugandans have themselves, and because the money they bring in and what they bring to the country for the president's sake, he will allow these type of atrocities to happen, turn a blind eye, and allow his police force to, just kind of dismiss this and file it away as if it didn't happen. So it means a lot to me that you and others are stepping forward to say these things are not right, and what are we going to do to bring attention to ourselves. One other thing, I want you to answer that, and another thing I want you to answer for me is the comments that you just made about the colonel there when you went and he was talking to the youth and making the history of Uganda seem less of what it really is, the actuality of what's really happening in that country. What are you guys doing on a university level, or is anything being done to educate the youth as to the truth of the history there in Uganda, or are we just allowing leadership to continue to feed them these things that they're saying? So answer those two things for me, if you would, Anna.
Well, these are some of the things that I've been telling you about. I personally had a discussion with my party president about a counter force that we could have for this, because we can't let this continue to happen. But then he says we can do it as the National Youth League, design a message and the truth and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it's taking too long to kick off. And personally, I have all these numerous ways that you can introduce them to the truth about what really happened. The audio, the videos, all those footages can speak to people and tell them the truth. All these footages are there. All this information is there. It just needs to be availed to them. And I've not had an opportunity to do that because of the resource constraints that are involved are really what holds us back. But it's very easy to get them very interested in the kind of history of their country. You just have you can have a congregation of people and you just show them a video footage of what really happened in the northern Ugandan war. You have a video footage about all the promises that are made. The problem is they don't even have interest in some of the things. If you have all this documented about when the president said that yes, the loan scheme has been passed, and then you ask them, right now you're struggling with tuition, why aren't you asking about where your loan scheme has been placed? I mean, taxes are increasing. Kampala City Council Authority is charging us on it for even standing on a street.
Oh,
so
wow.
Where's all the money going?
Wow. Yeah, and I'm happy to see that the information is there, but we have to figure out how to get the youth involved in pulling that information up and researching things for themselves, because I know that they see what's going on there in the country.
Yes. They see but they don't do it with a keen eye. You understand? Because, like, I'll tell you what they have known for the entire time they have studied is a very uncritical way of analyzing everything. Because if you ask some of them whether they listened to the Independence Day speech, they will not know. And yet some of them are in the courses. They're doing the courses which the president calls useless. He appears and says, whoever does development studies, how do you do that? It's a very useless course. So I expected people doing development studies to have reacted like hot water had been poured on them, because you can't have a president demeaning. Of course, he said that, I don't know what in his words, I don't know what is wrong with these people who do conflict resolution studies. What happens when there is no conflict? You're just permanently unemployed. So who do you blame? You can imagine.
I know, because that type of study, to me, if someone was studying that, I would think that they would get a job working in a high intelligence company, whether it be our FBI or whether it be in the military, because they're learning strategies of combating and strategies of solving and solutions to things. For a president to belittle his people is what I talked about last week. Last Sunday is a little of the numbing that starts to happen. He takes away what truly makes an individual who they are, and he tells you that you will get nowhere in life because of this. And people take hold of that and start to believe that, and they, like you were saying, they should have reacted like someone poured hot water on them, but instead they just kind of stood there in shock, I guess.
Yeah. And you know, Brenda, one thing we should know is that Ugandan people have a very low self-esteem. And that's not something that happens in a day. You understand? If a Ugandan goes to a hospital, Mugabe hospital, and they're told that, you know what, there is no medicine, the medicine that's in these reserves is kept for people who have money to pay for antiretroviral medicine, they will say okay and walk away. You know, they will not stand there and say, what makes this other HIV victim different from me? Because this is a life, this is a citizen. My life is not less valuable compared to them. So why aren't I accessing antiretroviral drugs? But you see, they have such self-esteem that they will just walk away without doing anything. One of the things I learned when I went to Nigeria was that in this struggle, and I hope that eventually when we are able to get the resources and actually start doing these classes with people, we will help them understand themselves first. Because people need to appreciate some things about themselves before they can actually give up everything to join this struggle and you know, see and understand the need for change. When you tell someone, yes, you deconstruct the individual and tell them, who are you? Someone will say, well, I'm a teacher. Take away the teacher from you, because that's something just acquired. Who are you? I am a father. Well, that also came with time. Take that away. Who are you? Eventually, someone remains there with himself as a human being. Now, you're a human being. What are you entitled to as a person? Look at yourself as someone who God took time to create. And look at where you're living. Look at how much you have struggled. Do you really deserve to be there? You know, people need to understand. They need to have self-esteem to the extent that if a president appears on national TV and he tells his citizens who are doing conflict resolution that they are useless citizens, because when there's no conflict, then they deserve no jobs. Why would he say that? You understand it and you say, well, no, I am a human being like you, and this is my interest just like your interest was political science, Mr. President. So what gives you the right to belittle me because this is where I'm talented?
Well, exactly, and it's something that needs to be challenged on a day-to-day basis, because people really have to start thinking in terms of, who am I outside of what it is that I do? And you're right, that's being stripped from the citizens there in Uganda daily. I think about the young children that are taken and put into the military. I think about the things that happen with the teachers in the schools. I think about the patriotism thing there, where they were taking teachers and 5 of the pupils from each school and teaching them, to work and operate guns. That's where it starts at, because when you take a young child and he knows that his parents doesn't have control over what's happening to him, his teacher doesn't have control over what's happening to him, nor does any of his classmates, you start that very, very young. When this young kid who was forced to do something that he didn't believe in and didn't want to do, had no protection from any course of anything, and now he's put to do something that he doesn't agree or approve with, when he becomes a man and you ask him that question, he will have no words for it, because he's never had a system that stood up for him. He never had a system that validated his feelings and his emotions. And validating one's feelings and emotions are very, very important. It's what helps people to thrive and become the great leaders that our children eventually come into being someday. And if you take that away from them in their youth, which, like you were saying, the youth of Uganda is almost going to be 70% in the next 5 years, little by little, this government, because these students, this is the only sitting government that they've known, little by little over the course of their lives, this has been taken away from them. So this is a bad analogy, but it's a true analogy, and we use it a lot here in the United States to say when you have a room full of rats and all those rats are hungry and you throw a piece of cheese in there, they don't mean to be violent and cruel and hurt other people. All they are is hungry, and they want what has been thrown out there, whether it be a job, whether it be food, whether it be education, regardless. We can use that analogy for across the board. And people go for those things, just like you were saying, this student who was raped in a brutal way, simply because she was like that rat in a room where that was thrown to her, and that's all she knew and that's all she had. So she went and allowed this to happen for months before it ever got to a place where it escalated out of control, where other people became a part of it to say, this is not right, it's not tolerable, and this should not be happening. So who's paying for her medical expenses for her to be in the hospital?
Oh, well, initially it was FIDA Uganda paying for the expenses, but after we demonized the police and the government for doing nothing about it, government came in and now they are paying for her medical bills. She's in Mulago. She's steadily recovering. Unfortunately, she lost the baby. The baby couldn't survive, but she's on her way to recovery. And still, we've not seen how far the case has gone, and we're giving deadlines because if they're going to hide files from us, and this is what the police does, by the way. This is what it does. A couple of months back, a gentleman called Desh Kananura beat up one of his workers to death, and somehow he just went. He disappeared and he was never found, and the file disappeared just like that. It was buried away. But is this what it should be like? There's justice, no economic status. Should justice know tribe? Should it know who you're related to in the criminal justice system? Because then I would not blame myself that I am not born in the right family, in quotes, by the way, because I've not had an opportunity to know the right people, but that does not make me less of a Ugandan.
Who makes these decisions that these cases should go missing, or that these people should not be brought to justice?
Well, it's an entire system that is rotten. The IGP had a relation with this gentleman. He was family. Distant family member, and he's the Inspector General of Police. He can say this file should disappear, and it will disappear. And looking at the pressure, because what we found out is that the Pakistani government had pressured so much the government of Uganda to an extent that the ambassador told the IGP, this is it. It has to happen, or else we are going to be put at a bad place with the Pakistani government. This file must just be done away with, and we can solve this in-house. But how do you solve such a crime in-house? It's impossible.
Well, it's impossible, and if you allow these type of atrocities to happen, they will continue to happen. You will eventually lose control over it completely, because this is demoralizing a human being. I mean, this is a citizen of Uganda who has just been violated and demoralized in her own country, and these are things that can't happen. I'm glad to hear you say, though, that you guys are researching, you guys are finding these people, and you're making the government accountable and questioning them, because one of the things you do when you start to do that is you start to make these crimes less and less possible of happening because people know that there are other people out there that are watching that are going to hold the government accountable for what's happening to these people.
Yes, yes, and but aside that, Brenda, I'm now looking at a situation where we are not just going to say government. We need to have individuals themselves targeted. Find out who made the file disappear. Whether it was a junior officer following demands from above, have him, indicted, have him charged for such a crime, and have him punished. That is going to help, because you see, in this impunity of a system, they're no longer institutions in this country. They're just individuals who are rotting the whole place. A simple phone call and everything is out of the way. Wherever it came from, people must know that the law is the law, and the arm of the law is long. It will stretch and get them wherever they will be. But that still gives us a hard circle to play in, because even when you go to the judiciary, Museveni just has his cadres everywhere. So
yeah, which makes it very difficult to do these things. Now, I understand that you are studying law. So what do you want to see yourself do as far as bringing law and order to Uganda? Where do you want to see yourself working at within the government, or as an independent lawyer to shed light on these type of things that are happening?
I wouldn't see myself working in the government that is on right now, but I too very much vision a Uganda where, one, the president's powers do have a limit, because it's very unfair for the president to be the one choosing judges. He's the one approving them. He's the same one going to approve the commissioners in the Human Rights Commission. He's the same one going to approve to choose an IGP. He's the same one going to choose people in the Uganda Revenue Authority, people in the Uganda Investment Authority. He is literally choosing everyone. So all the power seems to come from one person. And power that is centralized.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I want to just feed on what you're saying so you can continue on. Because you understand that most countries in the free world and everywhere else, a lot of those positions that you just talked about have to be voted. The people vote for who they want in those positions.
Yes, that is ideally how it should be. And even then, because you see, this is the reason why people say that there are no institutions in the country. The Human Rights Commission should ideally be the number one human rights body in this country. But let me tell you, Brenda, that even when this lady was raped in such a vile manner, the Human Rights Commission was silent. Even when all those stories I have told you about the workers and how they're being mistreated, the Human Rights Commission goes silent. Ideally, someone who has a passion for human rights should know that the violation of one person's human rights is the violation of the entire society's human rights. So they should fight to the last drop of their blood to make sure that even one person, a single individual, is protected. But you see, the commissioners are chosen by the president, so they don't want to get on his bad side. They will be quiet about the things they should be talking about. That's not fair.
It's not fair, it's not fair, and you continue to give power to a person that you need to start taking his power away because of the decisions that he's making. Now, the Human Rights Commission that you're talking about, when you or your group or anyone confronts them on an issue and why they didn't say anything or why they didn't investigate it, do they kind of reopen the case then and go ahead and investigate it, or do they just continue to try to hide it?
The Human Rights Commission only works under immense pressure and threats. If you want the Human Rights Commission to yield, then yes, you have to call them to action. You can even demonstrate to their offices and tell them you're not doing what you should be doing. But that may not alone help. You should go on to criticize them on the media and show they're just a backing dog. They don't do anything. What you expect them to do? The things that they stand for, they do nothing. All they know how to do is to go to Parliament at the end of a financial year and say, well, yes, this is our report. In largely, the respect of human rights has been flourishing this past year. We have seen police maybe arrest people in a more human way, and they don't break it down. It's supposed to be zero tolerance to abuse of human rights.
Exactly. And Human Rights Commission, I mean, when I think about that, I think of all the things that are happening in Uganda right now. They should be the busiest people in Uganda right now trying to keep law and order for human rights. And there is so much chaos going on in the country right now. I didn't even know there was a Human Rights Commission until you just said it.
Surprise, surprise, it's there and it does nothing. All they know how to do is just launch a report and say, well, the percentages have increased. You see, the problem, I'm not a good mathematician, but I don't like percentages because I think that they hide a lot. They hide a lot, and people should be very honest about the kind of statistics that they give, because the Human Rights Commission cannot say that now human rights are being protected when they know what happens with the media, when they know that every time there's a demonstration and a media person tries to have a coverage done, they will break his camera, pepper spray his eyes, his nose, they will beat him up, and yet it's the media that's going to inform the entire country that something is going wrong. So if you don't protect them, then who are you going to start protecting? I mean, it's the media that told the country about how badly this young lady had been raped. It's the media that tells us about all these numerous things that happen. But the Human Rights Commission just sitting, well, they just have a supervisory role. It's a monitoring role. I don't like people who do things just behind computers and on tables. They don't know the real Ugandan. They don't know the true feel of what it means to maybe be beaten by policemen when they are arresting you.
Yeah, let me ask you this question. Let's talk about the Human Rights Commission just for a second here. I remember a few weeks back you shared the story about the man who injured himself on the job. He lost a couple of fingers. He went back to see what they could do to help him, if there's some other kind of work he could do, whatever. And one day he showed up and they beat him. They beat him into a coma. And what would happen to this man? Or does this man have the rights to walk into the Human Rights Commission office, file a complaint, and say, this happened to me? What would be the course of action of what would happen? Or does those rights even exist for the normal citizens there in Uganda to simply walk into this office, fill out a complaint, and have it investigated?
So yes, that's what the Human Rights Commission is supposed to do. And they do that. They will have a complaint that is filed. But even to us, they're created by statute. The Human Rights Commission is a creature of the Constitution of Uganda in Article 51.
Well, and I understand that. I do understand that completely. But this man who was beaten into a coma should not have to go in their office and fill out a complaint. So my question is, do they even just investigate these type of incidents, or do they just sweep them under the rug if the person doesn't come in there and complain?
No, they don't. It is not their business until you can complain. But then again, ask yourself, how many Ugandans even know the Human Rights Commission exists? If it is not able to fully exercise and be very strong about their work and the decisions that they make, then why would a Ugandan even know they exist? If a Ugandan is simply trying to look for food, then he doesn't care whether the Human Rights Commission exists or not.
Wow, that's amazing. We're going to take a few-minute break here. For those of you who are on board and listening, I am Miss Brenda. You are listening to The American Connection with myself and Anna Deck, the President-elect Guild there at Macquarie University, talking about a lot of the, one we just got off of here, Human Rights Commission. So we'll be back in just about 5 minutes. We're going to take a break here, so please stay tuned. You are listening to Voice of Uganda Radio. the mouthpiece of all Ugandans, wherever they may be, to voice their problems without fear of any retribution. The Voice of Uganda Radio works in sync with FADU, the Federalist Alliance of Democracy and Development in Uganda. FADU is an organization that was formed to work as a platform for all Ugandans at home and outside, to work synergistically to liberate our mother Uganda from the ruthless invaders that have sucked it dry. Therefore, FADU invites all able Ugandans to act now and save the Uganda humanity that is being slaughtered, destroyed, and robbed by a few people unworthy to call themselves Ugandans. Many people are crying for action in Uganda as they languish in misery. FADU echoes their cries by making the loudest alarm to everyone to join FADU, not tomorrow or the next day, but today. The number to join is 408-904-7038. The email is info@fadu.org.
For that day, for the light.
Eno ekolaganira wamu n'ekibiina ekya Federalist Alliance of Democracy and Development in Uganda, FADU. Ebigendererwa by'ekibiina kino kuzza mirembe, enkolagana ey'awamu, obwenkanya, okuggyawo enkola y'omwana waani, n'okusosola mu mawanga, okutulugunya, okulya enguzi, ebikudde ejjembe mu Uganda. Era kirwanirira okuzza enfuga eya demokrasiya mu Uganda. Ekibiina kino kye kisookedde ddala okukubiriza buli muntu yenna okukyegattako awatali kusosola mu mawanga n'enzikiriza oba ekitundu omuntu kyalimu mu nsi yonna. Kino kye kiseera twegatte tusobole okuzza obupya ensi yaffe Uganda edobonkanyizibwa. Buli eyandyagadde okwegatta ku kibiina kya FADU kuba ennamba eno 1-8-4-9-7-3-8 oba weeyambise email info@fadu.org.
You are listening to Voice of Uganda Radio, the mouthpiece of all Ugandans, wherever they may be, to voice their problems without fear of any retribution. The Voice of Uganda Radio works in sync with FADU, the Federalist Alliance of Democracy and Development in Uganda. FADU is an organization that was formed to work as a platform for all Ugandans at home and outside. Stay in tune. This is Miss Brenda, and you are listening to Freedom at Hand here with me and my host here, Anna Deck, who is there in Uganda. Every time she comes on the program, I feel honored in every way because she is truly a person who wants to see change come in the country, and at all costs, she speaks on topics and situations that most people would not even talk about in their homes, let alone come on the air to talk about. So thank you so much for being a part of the listening audience and allowing her to have a voice. We do encourage you, if you would like to call in, you are more than welcome to call in and be a part of the conversation. However, if it just suits you to just be a part of the listening audience, well, then we are glad to have you aboard. Anna, when we left, we were talking about the Human Rights Commission. And it just puzzled me because I told you that I did not even know that this exists. And when we were getting ready to go off the air, you were saying that most Ugandans don't even realize that the Human Rights Commission is there. Is it just not an open door policy, like if you wanted to go to the police if something happened to you? Do people just not know that it exists in that same manner, that you can go through and fill out a report to get help or to get something investigated?
Well, no, the Ugandan, an average Ugandan would basically go as far as only the police, think that it's only the police that can help them. And really the Human Rights Commission is to blame because No one is going to hear you if you can't make a sound. If you cannot raise your voice and say it is wrong for this to happen and government should come out and publicly apologize and rectify this mess it has, landed someone in, then no one will know you exist. And that's exactly where the Human Rights Commission has been. They're spectators instead of being players.
Well, yeah, because it's interesting to me that people wouldn't do that. And you know what happens? It happens oftentimes. If no one speaks up, not even one person, it will silence everyone. And no one will feel the need to stand up against these organizations or against these programs to say this or that is or isn't right. And I think the president, the sitting regime, and your sitting president, I think he's doing a very good job at keeping the Ugandan people silent. How do you feel about that?
Oh yes, he's doing a lot. What could I call it? It's a very populist way of doing things. Pretty much. And a kind of an appeasement policy. He knows how to, like I said, there are no institutions still existing in this country. They are individuals. So if the individual of Museveni is going to turn himself into a demigod everywhere, he's making himself chief viewer of the solar eclipse and saying that it is him who brought it to Uganda. That is crazy. But people will believe him. They will believe that, well, our president brought the eclipse, God has blessed us, and the eclipse came because the president is the president. It would never have come if he wasn't. So he's everywhere. He's making himself chief view of the eclipse. He's opening markets. He is commissioning the, making of a road everywhere. He's just being very populist. He's not giving anything. He'll come and commission the construction of a road that is going to start now and make sure that it doesn't get completed until he's re-elected.
Oh, that's incredible. We have a call, Anna, so we're going to go ahead and take this call. Hi, caller, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Anna. My name is Senkadua, and I'm also on this radio station and Agayawamu program of Mali. Thank you for all the efforts you... you're welcome. Thank you for the sacrifice that you guys have made, to be on this program. Actually, I'm here in California right now, and very early in the morning, I've been following you with the program that started from 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've just been listening to just great things and ideas from both of you guys. I've just heard you talk about things like human rights and the investors and the rape cases that are going on in the country, and it's just so sad. When you live in a country that has had, a very big population of the youth, that, like that of Uganda, and the youth are not doing nothing to stop this, kind of environment or, violations that are going on, it's just so upset. Because if they cannot just realize and see what's going on, and they say, hey, no one is going to help us out of this situation, we have to do it ourselves. I mean, it's just, like I said, so sad. Because when you look at, all other countries that have had changes, like Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, all the youth have been involved to have these changes, done.
Yes.
But the Ugandan youth, I don't know what's going on. I don't really know, and I just don't understand. Because we can sit down and say, hey, the government is not doing enough, to teach us. The government is not doing enough, But when we get violated, like that girl that got raped, it wasn't the government that got raped. It was the girl that got raped. Yes. So, we as our youth, it's our responsibility to see what's going on, and we have to react accordingly. We can't just wait and, we can't just sit down and wait and say, hey, maybe, someone out there will have to see this, and they will help us out. I've just heard you talk about human rights. We have to know that all the things that are going on in Uganda are being watched. But who are the people that are, who are leading the human rights society in Uganda? These are the people that are working for Museveni, for the existing government right now. All the things, who are violating our rights as the youth? The police, the government. Do you think they care? They don't. You know, all the investors that are doing all these stupid things in the country, they are on contract. They are on agreement. They are fulfilling their agreements. When they come to Uganda, by the way, these are not investors. These are crooks. These are thieves that connect with the government to come and support the youth. They are on contract and agreements to come and employ the youth, violate them, put fear in them. You know, just block their mind and say, hey, there is nowhere we can go. You know, we just have to live in this environment, and, you know, they just have to control them like that. Look at what's going on in the universities right now. These things are planned. These things are planned just to put down, you know, the fire of the youth. They don't want you to get involved in anything. They just want to destroy the country like that. Because where the youth are not involved, you know, in all the activities of the country, you know, that country will never develop. So that's the same thing that is happening in Uganda. Anna, I would request you and encourage you to start lobbying for educational materials, to start lobbying for public speakers, to start lobbying for, you know, materials like that. That way, you know, we can start getting these people going to universities, you know, all over the campuses to teach them. If that's what is required, we are supposed to do that. We are supposed to start, you know, teaching the youth, involving the youth to get involved into these activities, you know, because it's like Ugandans, you know, we are just sitting down and say, maybe someone is going to help us. We should stop thinking like that. I mean, all the things that are going on in the country right now, they are just affecting the youth. Most of them, when you look at the unemployment rate right now, who are suffering? With the youth. Who are getting wrecked? With the youth. You know, who are being in prisons right now? With the youth. But then how do you expect me, you know, to help you when that does not even involve me? That's the thing in Uganda. We are crying out for Rwanda. We are crying out for Kenya. We are crying out for South Africa. They won't help us unless if we do help ourselves and we get ourselves out of this situation.
Exactly, caller. And let me ask you a question. First of all, thank you so much for getting up at 5 a.m. to be a part of the program, and we really appreciate that a lot. Like Anna was saying, in the next 5 years, 70% of Uganda is going to be the youth. 70%, that is a very, very large number. And I understand what you were saying in telling Anna to come together with some type of programs to draw the youth in. What do you think that we can do, those of us that are out in the diaspora, even? Because you know that a lot of people are funding money in for these kids to go to school and for their educations and everything. How do you think we need to feed into that also? Because I think that we on the outside of Uganda have a responsibility as well to ignite the youth forward.
One thing, Brenda.
Go ahead, Anna, and then we'll come back.
Speak. Okay. The one thing I know is that we're not in control of the education system. The curriculum is drawn by the government, and of course, schools cannot decide, yes, now we are going to teach this. The government can just close up such a school because, you know, they have to register with the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Education is the government itself. But what we can start is a counter force that can help, you know, have all this kind of literature spread around, have all these kind of movies go viral so people can be watching them and they can know, have all these debates and talks happening, because I think now we have to really take it upon ourselves. We don't need a platform, say it has to happen in a school, because like I said, we don't have institutions anymore, they're individuals, and the individuals cannot let us do what we want to do. So what I would propose, in my opinion, to help so many young people come face to face with this reality is to make the information and knowledge readily available to them in the ways that they appreciate. One of the most unfortunate things is that, well, people in our generation don't do a lot of reading, not had copy reading and all these kinds of things. So they like to watch movies, they like fashion, but you know, you can speak to them even in the ways that they like. You can have a play, you can have poetry, and you can have people, you know, talk about these atrocities. Tell all those poetry lovers, tell them through a play, tell them through music, through a skit, tell them through a movie, call them for a movie, and let the movie be, talking about the invisible children of Uganda, talking about, the so many unemployed people in Uganda. And that's a very easy thing to do if you have the resources available, because all this literature has to go out to the young people. They need to find all these different things interesting. So you have to woo them to actually come to you and then leave when you have told them what they should know.
Go ahead, caller. I'll let you respond to that.
Yeah, actually, that's the same thing I was thinking. But the thing was, like I talked about, I think, I don't know when I was last on this program. But, like I said, I'm part of the youth, and I'm seeing what, the youth are going through. But we had, actually, I was planning, or I'm trying to design a program where I would involve, or we would involve, all the university leaders. But so far we've been disappointed by some of the university leaders in Uganda. And I don't really know, because we had one of the guild presidents, I think, from Chambogo, who was supposed to come on, one of our programs. He kept on dodging, down. I don't know what his issue was. He was not clear with us. But we just don't have to deal with such people. We want to involve people who are interested in development. We want to involve people who are part of the youth. Because, the program that I'm trying to design is, at least we should try to hold some conferences. We talk, because we have a lot of people here in diaspora who have the youth that have gone through that same system, and they would want to be involved. But we just don't have those programs where we can all meet, and at least we come up with some ideas of what, probably some solutions of how we can go about these issues.
Yeah, because, one of the things we talked about on earlier shows is the youth in Uganda have, the social media that they have is just incredible now. Whereas 10 or 20 years ago, we didn't have the avenue to get to the people the way we do now. It's disappointing, some of the things that people would rather do with social media rather than educating themselves, figuring out what committees are where and how they can move forward. And that's, I understand what the caller is saying, that's the direction we need to start taking people, which is one of the reasons, Anna, that we're glad that you're part of the program, because what happens is the president-elect guilds, like the caller is saying, you guys are our link into hundreds and thousands of students that we can start to filter in, what needs to take place, how the youth need to be educated to move themselves forward. And without that, you leave us helpless to help you move forward. Do you understand and agree what he's saying as far as that, Anna?
Oh, yes, that is true. And we need to be really dedicated to this, because if we don't do it, no one else can do it. You understand? So it should be something that comes first and very primary. It means our life to us, that we should be able to live a country that, we can all look back to and say, yes, we are part of creating something as great and amazing as that.
Exactly, because the caller is saying it wasn't the government that was raped, it was one of the youth that was raped. And these type of things, the youth need to come together, and they need to stand behind her, even if they stood outside of the hospital and said that we will not take this anymore, we don't want to live like this anymore. They've got to start making their voices heard. Even though the police may show up and things may happen, if they remain silent, in the silence they will die. And no one will know what their cause was and how we could have even helped them. But if you get youth and they start to, when they hear someone's raped, someone's beaten, these atrocities are happening, or someone was arrested, come together as a university with your signs and walk and picket and say, we will not let this happen to the youth anymore. We're the leaders of the, of today, and that we've got to continue to make our voices heard, even if it's in silence. At least most of the things that have happened in the world globally, at the university levels, they made awareness to what was happening, and the rest of the world got on board. We didn't even have to be in their cities, their states, or their countries. We talked about what we knew from the students. They made the news just by what they did and just by the signs that they held. even though they never interviewed or talked to any of these students. So that's why we're saying this revolution can start and can grow rapidly with the students, because you guys right now are 50% of what makes up Uganda. Is that summing up what you're thinking, caller, when you're talking about the other President Guild that didn't come on board?
Yeah. Actually, that's the right exact thing that I was talking about. Because I really get disappointed when this incident happened, where this people got raped. And when people actually, the human activists, whatever it was, there's certain group that went to, protest at the, these guys, come to where they used to work, at their work at the Awusa. I only saw, a handful of people there, but most of them were just like, the ones they use that I would expect to see there. So I have a question to Anna. Why do you think these things are happening and the youth are not coming out to, to protest against them? They are not coming out to talk, about these issues. The only thing they talk about is, when they see like these guys walking around, they see gays and all that, you will see a number, a very big, huge population of the youth following them, and the things that, concern or involve the youth, mainly like that, rape case, the youth being smuggled to other, foreign countries to do prostitution and to do slavery over there. The youth are not involved. They can't come out and, protest or say things, about them. Why are not they involved?
Oh, thank you. This is pretty much what I was just going to mention when I came back on. I've answered that question a couple of times on this show, but I will repeat myself that I wouldn't blame people of my generation for acting the way they do, because they have been brought up. We have grown up in a coded environment that we are not in touch with reality. Now, what I think can be done to help them is we need a thorough civic awareness campaign among the youth. And this is not something that we need to do. Many people tell you, well, there are so many NGOs in Uganda, or it's so crazy, there are so many, and they're doing the same thing. The problem I have had with them is that they're doing the same thing in the same way. And this is the challenge. Because when I walked to Center for Constitutional Governance and I told them, well, you're an NGO and you're getting funding from DGF, why don't you improve your civic awareness? Why don't you why don't you help young people see the reality in ways they can understand? I mean, you have done this same thing in the same way. You have invited me for conferences and I have attended. But I know these things. It's not me who needs these conferences anymore. It's my age mates, it's my classmates, it's people I work with every single day who are not able to appreciate these things. People I say hello to when I am working on campus that need to see these things. These are the people you need. So it doesn't help for you to say we're having a conference and we're inviting the leaders of the university to come, and discuss maybe like the Public Order Management Act. I have an opportunity to study it and say, well, how dare you make an act that gives a policeman the mandate to shoot at a crowd when they meet? I mean, he can just show up if it's a crowd and he thinks he should shoot at them, he will shoot at them, and it is legal. Can you imagine? But a young person, say doing engineering, does not have the time to appreciate those kinds of things. How am I going to talk to him and tell him that we need this kind of thing? I am going to tell him this if I'm able, as the guild president, because they can easily relate to guild activities than these NGOs which seem so distanced from them. They don't feel the pain. If as a guild activity we are going to go to the Faculty of Technology and talk to them and tell them, well, you guys you're pregnant with so much talent, but you're never going to be, delivered because
I think
your
government lost her for a few minutes. She should come back in just a second. I see Dorothy has gone and come on board.
Hello?
So, Dorothy, if you would, go ahead and comment to what our caller was just talking about, and Anna. Dorothy, are you there?
Hello, Ms. Brenda. Good morning.
Hello, Brenda. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead and finish up.
Oh yes, I was telling you that if we can, as a guild, go to the College of Engineering and tell them, well, we see you, you're so talented. We see,
I think we're having problems here with Anna. I don't know if it's her line or what's going on. Caller, my other caller, are you there?
Hello, Ms. Brenda, can you hear me?
Hi, Dorothy, are you there?
Yes,
yeah,
can
Dorothy,
you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes, I can hear you, Dorothy. Go ahead and comment to what Anna was saying. I just lost her. We'll try to get a connection back to her.
I kind of had a hard time the last 8 minutes trying to get in, so I kind of lost track of what she was saying when I was trying to connect with you guys. And you kept calling. I was hearing you, but you couldn't hear me.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, we were just talking about the youth and just how we get them motivated to move in the right direction.
I kind of got part of what she was saying, that some of them are just not really interested, or they have given up, or they don't know pretty much anything, what to do. So part of it, people have been kind of terrorized, people have been terrorized. And a lot of what Ms. Anna has been talking about is surely there's a lot of things that people don't know. So we really need to educate the youth about what to do. But as I normally say, okay, the youth, the people have, they are so poor. Yeah? People have so many things to worry about that even though the president is standing there and is starting, down talking people what kind of courses they are taking, it is because they don't care, because that comes second to what's going on. What am I going to eat? For those who are in school, where am I going to get my tuition? There are so many things that people are worried about that. I don't think that they don't really care, but there is a few things we can do to help them achieve what they need to achieve. One of those things is information. Okay? When we talk about this moral decay and the ethics and all of what is going on, you find the strip club after strip club, bar after bar. I remember some time back when the president was challenged about the poverty.
I can hear you.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Yeah, something is going on. I have this echo out of the blue. Anyway, when the president was challenged, he said that, you can't say Ugandans are poor. When I'm in the Kampala, everywhere I go, the tables are black. Youth are having fun. They are drinking ABCD. These are one of the tricks that they are using. Okay, so when you see musician after musician coming and the people, they try to keep them this way. When you see body black and all those kind of things, yeah, they're trying to attract their attention. But on the other hand, they are so stressed out, they are so worried, they don't know which way to go, that some of the things, it is not even because they don't care anymore, but I think they are kind of overwhelmed about what is going on. So, we can talk about lack of will. So about that young lady who was raped, and it happened again and again and again. You sit back and you wonder how long it even did take you to get such a horrible job according to her standards, okay? And you are like, so when I live here, then what? Huh? When I leave this, then what? People, when you go to, there is nothing, no justice for Ugandans. When you go to the court, there is nothing. The police, even in ours, we know the army and the police who are sympathizing with the local people, they are also being punished heavily. It sounds like they also, some of them, they don't have a choice regarding the orders from above. Do you think all of them want to do what they are doing? No. Those documentaries also are coming out big time, that the policemen or the people who are trying to sympathize or are not carry orders as exactly ordered, they are being punished.
Now we know we are a lot of people, we are a lot of army people, especially from northern Uganda, that the government is not trusting. Right now they are in safe houses. Right now they are being tortured. So there is a lot of killing, there is a lot of torture, there is a lot of things that are going on that our people, because remember they tried some time back. So right now when they don't see anything obvious in sight, so people are like, now what? For me, that's why, as much as we need to do our part in educating the youth, Miss Anna, and all those universities, the students need their esteem and they need to stand up there. But there are certain things we need to do to bring back their esteem because it was there. But they have been terrorized. Okay? That is true. That is true. There is no question about that. When the president, they are the ones who scrubbed our education curriculum and took it to Rwanda. Okay? They left us with nothing. Those courses, they know that Ugandan children are brightened. They can get something out of them. Those courses have been rubbed off the board. Now when he looks at courses, when somebody's going to be an intelligence office or anything like that, he doesn't like that. If you are not a Rwanda or one close to his family who is going to work for him, he doesn't like you to have such kind of education. But I'm sure there are things we can do about to educate and bring back esteem. So as far as education, Ms. Anna talked about that passionately. There's a lot of things that our people don't even know. When you talk about that young man who was beaten, I don't even know that he knew that there is something like a right, human rights commission where he can go to. But when we talk about the human rights commission, Ms. Brenda, these things are on paper. Okay? What Museveni mastered, what the NRM government mastered is putting things on paper so that they are well organized. But when the donor please ask what is this, the files are there ready for them to show the structure and everything. But literally, physically, implementation, there is nothing. But they have to cover themselves because they receive donors, and those everything is on paper. But literally, there is nothing. When you hear about talking about PE, how did the PE come about? Who is paying for PE? They came up with a very, very good program. They wrote it very well. But why has it failed? Because the money, they have the paperwork, they did write a very good curriculum, they showed it to the donors, they give the donors, but it never gets to the ones who are supposed to be getting the education. Why? But when the donors look at the files, the work and everything, it is excellent. So we are up to know these things, and we see how they work.
Wow, yeah.
So that's how Uganda is all about. Yes.
Yeah, I understand completely. Anna, go ahead and comment on what Dorothy was saying. But what I want you to comment on for me is you were just talking about the student, that the engineering student that wants to do his studies and just wants to get through school and doesn't want any problems. Doesn't he realize that he will become a part of the problem when he graduates from college? This is the thing I want to understand. I understand what you're saying about students just want to be in school and they want to do their studies and they don't want to get involved in politics or some of the other things that are happening. But surely they are aware of all the rape charges. Surely they're aware of the unemployment. Surely they're aware of what youth that have already come through the universities are going through and trying to survive. So do they just think that this is not going to happen to them, or are they just blind to society within Uganda and what's going on? I mean, there's got to be something that motivates them in the direction of justice because they're going to be a part of that same system in the next 2 to 3 years. Comment on that for me, if you would.
Oh yes, Brenda, that's it. The problem is very many of them are quite, I could say short-sighted, because when they're in the university, they forget that in just a few years, they're going to be somewhere looking for a job, and the government of Uganda is going to be giving a contract to a foreign company and leaving them, who are Ugandan, and not giving them an opportunity to, build their own roads. So maybe because there is a deal between the government of Uganda and that foreign company, that part of the money for that road is going to go to specific individuals, then they will give the contract to a foreign company and let them go jobless. But you see, I think everyone has a story in all this, and that there is no specific story that is unique to all of them. Okay, yes, it may be different, that everyone may have their own attachment to it, but they need to understand the general picture and then understand their specific contribution, because politics is not just about politicians and what they say and do and all that kind of stuff. It's about creating what you want to create, and politics is everything. Politics is going to govern the economics of the country. It's going to govern the rate at which the dollar is going to be changing regarding the Ugandan shilling. It's going to govern the state of roads. It's going to govern the kinds of teachers and lecturers who walk into your classroom every single day. Politics is going to determine the kind of life that you as a Ugandan stay, the tax that you pay when you drink water, the tax you pay when you go and you buy fuel, the tax you pay when you take salt. But people are being blind to this. Why? It's because they don't know. They don't have that kind of information that can help them break it down and understand it the way that it should be. Now, for an engineering student, in the past year came up with a car that could use solar, and really it ended there. Nothing much has ever, been taken up.
Which puts me exactly where I just said, that just being in the university and understanding that they come up with their own creation, and within the university that creation doesn't go anywhere in the world, and they're done with school, the same things are going to happen to them again. We have a caller, so I'm going to go ahead and take this call from this caller, but we'll come back to that. Hey, caller, are you there?
Yeah, Brenda, I'm here. This is a mobile.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm enjoying the discussion. And I wanted to say a few words about 2 or 3 things about the Human Rights Commission especially. Okay. The Human Rights Commission, some of us had a lot of hope when it was established. We thought it was going to solve many of our problems. Well, if you look on the paper under the Constitution, it has a lot of functions which should be useful. It investigates complaints, and sometimes on its own initiative. In other words, people don't have to file complaints for it to take to start investigating. And it is supposed to visit prisons and detention centers. It is supposed to educate the public about human rights, and it is supposed to write annual reports to Parliament showing what it's doing, it has discovered, and where the problems are. And among the powers of the Human Rights Commission, which are important, it can issue summons just like a court to order people to appear before the commission, and it can release illegally detained people. The people in the detention camps. If they find out that they are illegally detained, they can issue an order for those people to be released. And it is also a tribunal. When it is hearing complaints, it can make decisions, enforceable decisions, like it can award damages to people who have been tortured. In fact, every year it awards about $500 million in awards of people whose human rights have been violated. So I think if it worked effectively, it would be a very, very useful institution. However, the second point I'm raising is connected. Corruption is our biggest problem. And the Human Rights Watch has published a report about Uganda, And the title is Letting the Big Fish Swim. That tells you everything. In this report, it's clear that there is political interference with the anti-corruption institutions by the government, of course. And there are shortcomings in applying the anti-corruption laws. There are problems, obstacles to successful prosecution. Sometimes there is a prosecution, but it doesn't go all the way because of the political interference. And the IGG has been mentioned. Sometimes the IGG, because of if he's investigating a minister, for example, he can be threatened, he can be told or been warned. I think one of them, they killed his dogs, and then somebody called him and said, how are your dogs? And we are dead. So you can see there is a lot of problem. There are many problems. And there is harassment and intimidation of the anti-corruption activists. I think Anna has already told you about that. The Black Monday distribution of pamphlets, they were detained, the people are detained for just doing that. And so we have a lot of problems. But I think one of the biggest problems is as the Human Rights Watch report points out, is that the laws are not being enforced. Mukula was the first minister to be convicted, but he appealed, and the president came out supporting him in public, and the conviction was overturned. And today they are reporting about a new scandal in the Prime Minister's office, 60 billion shillings, stolen from the Prime Minister's office. So the solution in the end, I think it's democracy. It's the only way I think we can solve this. We have not changed the regime, the government in Uganda for 30 years. So you cannot expect anything good to come out of that. And that's why nothing changes the system. And as a result, there is no accountability, no transparency, and anybody who tries to challenge the system is victimized. So we have a lot of problems, and I pray that people like Kiana and others, the activists, will not be intimidated, and they will continue to play a very positive role. So that's all I wanted to say and to comment about the discussions going on.
Well, thank you so much for that comment, and I would love to hear you talk about more on your program to really break down the Human Rights Commission, because that is it's an interesting topic that like Anna said, a lot of the Ugandans don't even know that it's there and it exists. One would think that nothing like that exists there simply because of everything that's going on. It just is, it's just amazing. Dorothy, go ahead and comment on that, if you will. Again, the Human Rights Commission, and then we'll go back on to Anna.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda. Really, I just, beloved Mr. Professor Mbiro has already stated, okay, these institutions are there, but people harassed. I might have used the word terrorized. It's not that people don't see what is going on, but people have nobody to run to. They have nobody to run to. Do you think this Human Rights Commission, do you think they are independent? If we try to do some research, who is the person on top? Who do they report to? Even though they would love so very much to do what they want to do, but the government hand is in there. They cannot do what they are supposed to do. Now, those guys, those Pakistani guys who raped this young lady, you can imagine, first of all, the police man was bribed. They gave him a truck, okay? And I think one of our hosts, even they know the number plate of the truck. They give him a truck. That's how it all started for this file to disappear when you visit back corruption. But also at the top, Human Rights Commission, the government, the same way as it is in the parliament, the same way as it is in the judiciary, the same way as it is everywhere. Okay? So people are not free to do what they are supposed to do. But everything goes in the paper. The government knows how to report to the donor countries and get what they want to get. When we get back to Ms. Anna's point, also, when we say that it is lack of will for people to do what they're supposed to do, I don't think it was Ms. Anna. I think it was somebody suggested that when things happen to the youth, like this young lady, why did the youth get up and start picketing and do all these kind of things? As I already stated, I think it is upon us to make sure that we bring about self-esteem, because we know students at Makerere University have been shot. We know that. We know people have been their legs broken, the evidence confiscated. I really hate to say that they haven't tried, but we need to sit and think hard how are we to help them to regain their self-confidence and to do what they are supposed to do when we are right behind them, and to do a massive education. That's why I can't stop singing this satellite radio, because we need to educate the Ugandan people what they are supposed to do. Corruption, as Mr. Sambu said, corruption everywhere. You find so many people in different institutions do what they are doing because they are corrupted. We might say the youth, they don't care. They have lost love for their country, but everything goes back to corruption and moral decay. Thank you, Ms. Brenda.
Brenda, we have a call.
Yes.
We have a call.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this next call. Caller, are you there? Okay. Hopefully you'll come back in just a few minutes. Anna, go ahead if you would, while we're waiting on this caller to come back in, and comment on what Dorothy just had to say there about the fear that is existing in the students as to not that they're not trying. It's just that how do we continue to motivate them under such pressure?
Yes, like I said, we need to deconstruct the individual. You know, when you deconstruct,
caller is back.
The caller's back. Okay, Anna, let's go ahead and take this, and I'll come back to you. Go ahead, caller. Are you there?
Hi, Miss Brenda.
Hi.
How are you doing this morning?
We're good. Thank you so much for calling in. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay. Hi, Dorothy, and hi, the guest, Anna. I'm very happy to hear you guys all your comments on this lovely program. But what I want to comment about is, Miss Brenda, I don't know whether you were born in Uganda. But
no, I'm an American.
Yeah, there is something that we are lacking in Uganda. And this thing has been brought by the present government, is the rights. I think Professor Mwilu can address that, because by the time during their times, I think the rights, people used to know what are my rights. The government uses to exercise, or some of the government uses to respect the right of the people, even if it was dictatorship by then. But now, people like us, we were born in a government whereby the rights of the people are not respected. So, for me to blame the youth, I can blame them not that much, because they were born in an environment whereby the rights of the people are not respected. I don't know whether Anna can agree with me with that.
Oh, well, I'm a child of the Museveni generation. And
yes.
Actually, I think the problem is that we were born at a time when it looked like human rights were being respected, and yet in actual sense they were being abused, just like it had been done in the past. I mean, there is no difference between Museveni and Idi Amin. Museveni is just more close than Idi Amin was, which even makes him worse, by the way.
Okay. Okay. The other thing that I want to is the youth of Uganda right now. They are suffering from. I don't know how I can classify it, but there are some of the things that can build them. They tend to neglect them. But things that don't build them, they tend to participate in them. Because we've seen the music industry has grown a lot. And if you can see the majority of those top artists, they are classified as youth. And the kind of songs that they sing, the kind of dressing that they wear, does not bring out any message to the youth. Right now, we are approaching December. We're going to have the launchings. We're going to have the whatever. You're going to see lots of youth in participating in those kind of things. And at the end of the day, you're going to ask yourself, does really the government, is it the government that forces them to go to there, or they go there to take out stress that is in them? Because Anna, what I expect from you as a leader is to gather or to meet some of the university, as my colleague was saying. If you guys can meet and draw up a strategy whereby you can bring awareness to our youth, because the spread of, we don't say music is bad, but the way music is being spread in Uganda, those launchings, those whatever, our generation, our youth, they're losers. Because they go there, they get drunk, they meet people who are older than them, they make them drunk. At the end of the day, what happens? I think you might have a report about this, because right now we have information whereby the spread of HIV in Uganda among from 13-year-old to 18 girls, it has raised. It's on an alarming rate. So, as a leader of Makerere, I expect you to draw up a certain strategy and call up some of your fellow students from some faculties, and you bring up awareness, because the government is doing nothing. The government is not doing anything to bring this to you guys.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Anna talked about a little earlier, I'm sure you've probably been listening to the program since the beginning. One of the things she talked about was poetry centers, where they can come together with poetry, with movies, with and with music. If I understand what you're saying as a caller, because if you listen to Melly Makeba from South Africa, she had a message in what she sang about what was going on in South Africa. That became her catalyst to make people aware of South Africa. Bob Marley did it. He had music as well to bring attention to starvation and what was going on in his country. Even in America, you can say through the rap generation, they've even started to open doors as to what a lot of the youth were going through with gangs and drugs and things like that. We are coming down and winding down to the last 5 minutes of our program, but Anna, I want you to go ahead and comment on that, what he was talking about and how music plays a role in that, and we'll let Dorothy do it as well for a couple of minutes, and then I'll close out the program. So Anna, go ahead and comment on that.
Okay, Brenda, I really like what you talked about, and just so I can tell you that this strategy already exists, and I've shared it with you, countless ways that we can reach young people and teach them and tell them that if you help them you talk to them about their self-esteem. I started something small of my own about a gender leadership club that I have here in Makerere, where we can talk about challenges in leadership and what we can do. But what I understand, what I learned from them is that most of the people that come actually don't understand the need to be involved in this struggle. So we need them first to understand the need, to love themselves and know that if as a human being I wouldn't want to be raped like that, and yet rape can happen to anyone. I mean, you could be walking someday and you could be a victim. Then it's time you spoke for her, because when it happens to you, you need to be spoken for. Then they can appreciate this and go at the battlefront, knowing that they will never go back. It's a no going back journey, and they have. It's a life or death thing that they have to achieve what they are fighting for. This is what we need them to appreciate. And they can appreciate this in so many ways. I'll tell you, I have so many young people here in the university that are very talented, and they're musicians. Some of them have written songs that talk about the plight of people in this country, about what happens to us as students and why we need to be out there. And it's just they have resource constraints in recording their songs, and yet music is something that can speak really powerfully to my generation. They appreciate music better. One of the songs that has been successful is called Zukuka, and I think, please, if you're really interested and you love Uganda, you should listen to it. And it's a song that I was a part of, and I'm trying very much to promote the artist so he can come to the university. He's from Uganda Christian University, Mukono, so he can come to Makerere and have a Zukuka concert where we can talk about, because Zukuka is about corruption. In his song, he asks what is happening to this country. Everything is corruption. Well, and it's a rap song, so it's very, 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 it speaks to people my age. They would feel it and understand the message, rather than listening to a talk, a debate, a presentation by someone. They've seen that. They seem to be bored by that.
Exactly. But, and we understand that, and we'll make sure that our announcer gets a hold of that so that we can promote that here on Voice of Uganda Radio too. We're down to our last couple of minutes, so let me let Dorothy go ahead and just comment about what we were just talking about too, Dorothy. We just have a couple of minutes.
Thank you very much, Miss Brenda. First of all, I hope, and I'm asking everybody loudly that it is not fair to say that, Anna, I expect you to do ABCD. Let us say that, Anna, let us do ABCD. Okay, we need to come together. We need to do these things together with the Anna and the rest of the youth. So let us be as one. Let us be as one, not to expect the Anna. Okay? Anna. So we need to support Anna. My biggest thing is support. Let us come together. Let us do the education that we need to do. As already Ms. Anna has stated, I was coming to say that I have heard a few songs. As you know, I really am not a fan of most of the times rap, but I took time to listen to these boys, and they are passionate about their country. I've had about 2-3. I actually played on Voice of Uganda Radio. So what I think is we need to be careful. This music system, some of things, if you remember what happened to Congolese when they were very, they have been always stressed, but you remember during the Mobutu when they were dancing, and it is music, because it took away people's stress. Music and drinking and people trying to escape the unspeakable. So that's what it is. Our role is to focus. Okay, the big singers who have already made it, some of them we have tried even to contact them. They don't care about what is going on there. And so some of them, they are, as we know, connection. They are connected to the big fish and all of that thing. So we just need to identify these talented people who care about the country, as Miss Anna is already doing. And remember, when you're talking about revolution, when you're talking about these things, they are formed by music. And people, they love this. This is going to be one of the things that, in fact, are on our agenda to do. We just need to redirect them from where they are going wrong and direct them where they need to enforce their energy, Miss Brenda. So let us come together, help the youth behind them, support, education. re-energized. For me, I know they have tried, and we will make it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dorothy, for your feed-in and everything that you contributed to the show today. Anna Deck, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show, keeping us informed on what's going on in Uganda and enlightening us to a few things that we didn't know about that we've learned today. And to my caller that was just on, thank you so much for starting igniting the power of music and the power of art to start to reach the youth there in Uganda. We have run out of time here on Voice of Uganda Radio for Freedom at Hand, but I thank all those that have been a part of the show today. Thanks so much for the calls that we received. God bless you all. Continue to fight for Uganda and be the voice for the voiceless. You have been listening to Miss Brenda, and I am signing out for Freedom at Hand until next week. Thank you, and have a great Sunday.
Wansonyi